6:34. You're inside What's on My Mind on the big show. It's nationwide this morning, nationwide 90 FM and nationwide radio jm.com. We're streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/nationwide 90 FM. We're also streaming on the NNN app and on our website. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Find me all over social media at Kalila Ray, KalilaRey.
Abkafit Henley, good morning to all our listeners. Hello to you as well, Kalila.
How are you doing this morning, Abka?
I am doing as well as can be in the circumstances. Difficult weekend in terms of the news content, which continued into yesterday, but we persist. I
Nice.
see our folks on YouTube are up already
How many of them are
commenting on
online
the
this
issues
morning?
of the day. Just over 400.
Good.
Hello
That's
to them.
that's a good number. Good morning to you all. Hi, YouTube. Good morning to you all watching us over there. Well, what's on my mind this morning, Abka, continues to be this unfortunate situation regarding young Jodian Ferron and the circumstances leading up to her death. And as you rightly pointed out during the interview with Isaac Buchanan, the family's attorney yesterday, one of the reasons this has become of such national importance and outrage is that many people are thinking, my gosh, it could have been me.
Uh-huh.
Now, I heard this story over the weekend, and listeners, you all know I just had a baby. My son is going to be 3 months old in a couple of weeks. So, and I recall after, this whole outbreak happened and things have been going the way they have here in Jamaica, I recall telling one of my friends, thank God I had the baby already
Uh-huh.
because I would not want to be pregnant in a time of COVID. I have a very close friend who just had a baby as well 3 weeks ago. I have another very close friend who is pregnant right now. She's in France.
Mm.
And as you know, Europe has been hit particularly hard by the disease. She's expecting in June, and France is one of the countries that has implemented measures for pregnant women that you have to have your baby all alone.
Oh,
Nobody is allowed in the room with you.
oh, I get you. You
No,
mean
no
family member?
no non-medical person.
Okay.
Let me say that no non-medical person is allowed. So you don't have any support, any emotional support. And let me tell you, having a baby requires emotional support. So hats off to the women who have done it all alone and who are doing it right now because of the circumstances. It's a circumstance that I would absolutely not want to be in. And so now, hearing what happened to Jodie Ann, upon suspicion that she had COVID-19, pregnant women across the land are panicking. Naturally so, because I guess it's a fertile time. I know quite a few people who are pregnant, and so they're they're all panicking, and you can imagine why. And one has to ask, what are the protocols here? What ought to be the protocols that ought to be followed? Because it is easily fathomable that a woman about to give birth to a baby in this time could present with COVID 19 symptoms. And so, this is something that should have been planned for. And there should have been a protocol to follow. Easy, clear guidelines. Okay, we have a patient who has symptoms of COVID 19. This is what you do XYZ. Step one, step two, step three. This is how we manage it. This is how we manage the patient, whether she's to be transferred, whatever the situation is. But it shouldn't appear to be that at the last minute they're trying to figure out what to do because this patient has come in with COVID 19. We had our first case announced on March 10. We're now at April 28th. Jodian would have passed away on the 25th or 26th, I believe, sometime over the weekend. So a good 6, 7 weeks into us having had our first case. More than enough time to hammer out a plan. And it's and even more time than that, because this disease has been, the world has been aware of this disease since late last year. So we've had months really to plan. Another thing that jumped out at me is the statement that Andrews had released earlier on in this situation. Their initial statement on March 22, which had said, Andrews Memorial Hospital will no longer see patients with possible symptoms of COVID-19. With immediate effect, they will no longer be seeing patients with fever, coughing, runny nose, cold, and shortness of breath. Persons with recent travel history, that's in the last 14 days, persons who've been in contact with persons who've been diagnosed with COVID-19, and then it continued to say that dental, cafeteria, U.S. medical services are suspended with immediate effect. And I recall that statement because of what Dr. Goldson told us on this program yesterday morning. Dr. Goldson would have said, recall that Andrew said long time they don't want those patients. And it's made me go and look up back the initial statement. And even when it came out at the time, I was still on leave. And I remember thinking, but how can a hospital, even a private one, have such a posture in a time of emergency? Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to show up. And like we've been saying over and over and over again, many people who have COVID-19 are asymptomatic. They present without symptoms. So you may end up with a patient on your ward who has this disease and you don't even know that they have this disease. Or, as in the case of Jodian, the patient develops apparent symptoms of this disease. What do you then do? If the patient develops apparent symptoms of this disease while in your care, and while at the same time being under severe distress, do you then kick out that patient under severe distress because of your policy? And I'm not saying that that's what happened in Jodian's case. I'm just saying in a general sense, how do you deal with a situation like this? Because that posture, that initial posture, cannot be fathomed in a time of emergency, in a time of COVID-19, when the entire world is dealing with this situation, because things happen. And then it brings me to another point, because I've been listening to multiple sides of the story. We had that long interview yesterday with Dr. Goldson, and I've been reading various accounts in the papers as well. Dr. Goldson said, when we posed the question of the anesthetist, because Andrews in their statement said that it was the decision of the anesthetists not to participate in the operation that caused them to have to seek other arrangements for Jodian, for the patient, which is why she had to be moved from that hospital. And in describing the circumstances yesterday morning, Dr. Goldson said, well, the anesthetist came and the hospital didn't have the proper protective equipment, PPEs as they call it, personal protective equipment. And again, I say it's been weeks since this disease has been in the island. Look how long we have been living with this, and you have a hospital, even though it's a private hospital, not being prepared for a situation like this. And I don't know if it's because they had already decided they're not going to see that type of patient, why they didn't have the proper equipment. But you never know when somebody ends up in your hospital, in your care, and you're not prepared. That cannot be acceptable. And then the statement that came out from the university hospital yesterday is another matter, because it still leaves many questions unanswered. It doesn't say much. It doesn't give us much to go on at all. Everybody seems to be pointing the finger in another direction, blaming somebody else for what happened. It's apparent that there was poor decision making by many in this situation. It's apparent too that there may have been poor communication by some of the parties involved. But what we do know is that a promising, bright, lovely young woman is dead. Today would have been her birthday. Jodian Farron would have been 24 years old today. A baby girl now has no mother. A family is in mourning, and a nation is up in arms. And we're all demanding justice for Jodian. That's what's on my mind. Good morning, everybody.
Huh?
I'm talking to YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.